Hello everyone, this is Jamal Robinson with 720astrology.com. So today I'm coming to talk to you about the upcoming full moon at 6 degrees of Aries on September 29th at 4:58 a.m. Central Standard Time. We're going to go to the board and talk about some of the key aspects that are being formed at the time of the full moon. Now, the first thing to realize about a full moon, this is the moon here at 6 degrees of Aries, which means it's opposing the sun at 6 degrees of Libra. The full moon, in one regard, is a culmination point of events that occurred 6 months ago when we had a new moon. So we had a new moon on March 21st at 0 degree of Aries. So one way to look at a full moon is as a culmination point of events that were taking place around the time of the new moon. Were you initiating something? Were you dealing with something? Did you choose to avoid something? However, we were working with the energies around the new moon at 0 of Aries, we will see some degree of culmination with this full moon at 6 degrees of Aries. As you can see, there are a lot of lines up here. The red represent tension points. A lot of tension occurring around this full moon in Aries tomorrow. One of the main things that we definitely want to pay attention to is the fact that there's tension around relationship and money at the time of this full moon, because we have Venus, which recently completed its retrograde phase. It's still in its shadow. That means it has not surpassed the degree at which it turned retrograde. Venus turned retrograde at 28 degrees of Leo. It is now at 22 degrees of Leo, which means it is forming its third square with Uranus over here at 22 degrees of Taurus. Currently, Uranus is retrograde. Okay? So with the third pass, we're having now the time of realization. Maybe this tension point here, we might have seen it flare up the first time when Venus squared Uranus, when it was going direct, and then we saw repercussions of that when Venus was moving retrograde and squared Uranus again. Now it's at the third pass, which is when we have this third square, we should be hopefully seeing some type of resolution. Even though there might be some tension, that tension could be bringing about ultimately some form of resolution, especially seeing evidence of when Venus gets to 29 degrees of Leo. And let's see here, when will Venus will get to 29 of Leo on October 8th. So if we have any tensions here around relationship and finance, why do we say relationship and finance? Because Uranus is currently in Taurus, which deals with resources. Okay? Now, we don't know where this will appear in your individual chart, but we're looking at the collective energies now. And collectively, Taurus deals with resources, deals with money, it deals with food. So maybe there's something that comes up tomorrow that is some tension point around resources and our security in resources. This is also there's added tension here because Uranus, you see these little green dots running up here? That is running to the south node in Libra. This is the south node. Basically, it's in a quincunx, which is a 150-degree relationship or aspect to Uranus. So maybe there's some type of tension here because Libra collectively deals with relationship, cooperation, partnership. So maybe there's something here that occurs around this time that puts some strain on relationship dealing with resources, because Uranus is in the square with Venus, which is the planet that rules both Libra and Taurus. Okay? But there is some help. Everything my college football coach would say, guys, it's never as good as it seems, it's never as bad as it seems. Somewhere in between reality lies. And here's an example of that, because while we have this tension point between Venus and Uranus, we also have a little bit of relief because Mercury is in a trine with Uranus. So maybe there can be some sudden inspiration in our thought patterns, because Mercury deals with our thoughts, and maybe we're talking to somebody because Mercury's communication, where we get some type of aha moment that will help with finances. Because in the natural zodiac, Virgo, the sign here where Mercury is, which is one of the signs it rules, Mercury deals with one of our money houses. Taurus is a money house, Capricorn is a money house. So we have a trine between Mercury and Virgo, Uranus and Taurus, and the natural money houses in the chart. So there may be some type of silver lining there, although we may experience some initial tension. So a theme for the full moon and for especially the beginning of October, and we're going to say the whole month of October, is to take a deep breath and to not overreact to how things may appear initially on the surface. Because we see here we've got this tension, but it's all hope is not lost. All right. Additionally, we have Uranus is still in sextile to Neptune. So this is getting information, inspiration, downloads, inventive thoughts from the collective unconscious. So that which is beyond that three-dimensional world. So here's an opportunity to really do some active imagination, to allow yourself to have disciplined daydreaming, if that even makes sense. That means that you're daydreaming purposely, to where you're allowing yourself to tap into your right brain and to get some downloads. But to complicate that, though, is the fact that Neptune is in a quincunx with the North Node. So there still may be some confusion here, because Neptune is the planet of confusion, and it's in a confusing aspect with the South Node at 25 degrees of Libra. And so all this still seems to be around this theme of money and relationship, because we're still involving Venus as it's the ruler of the apex point in this yod. So a yod is when we have planets in sextile, and they both are forming a quincunx to a planet or point in the chart. And this point is the South Node, where we have this yod form. So maybe some type of confusion, and maybe there's thoughts of turning back. Maybe there are thoughts of trying to go back to where we feel comfortable, because the South Node represents a place of familiarity and comfort. And this is further triggered by the fact that the planet of assertion Mars is in its detriment over here in Libra. So maybe the ability to assert ourselves is being tested right now, given that we have this quincunx between Neptune, Uranus, South Node, and that the ruler of the North Node, Mars, which rules the North Node here, Mars is over here in detriment because it's in the sign opposite its rulership. So this can cause further tension, and maybe we got some self-doubt here because Mars is opposing. I know I got a bunch of lines. If you follow, I'm going to try to follow this line. Those two little circles with the dash represents an opposition. Mars is opposing Chiron over here at 18 degrees of Aries. So maybe we're doubting ourselves. And that self-doubt makes us want to turn back and try to find this harmony and peace where now maybe it's time to metaphorically go to war. In a constructive manner, let me say that. This is further complicated by the fact that we have the sun and the moon in a point of tension between each other. So maybe if we didn't take action at that new moon on March 21st at 0 degrees of Aries, maybe that tension we feel right now and confusion could maybe push us back into the past or back into an old cycle, a cycle that we're moving out of. Conversely, maybe we took action at that new moon over here and things are moving, but a little stumbling block comes up and things don't quite initially look like they're working out, and then we lose a little bit of confidence and we start having some self-doubt with Mars opposing Chiron, and it's like, oh well, maybe I should just turn back, and maybe it's not the right time. Okay, so those are some things that can come up. Further complicating things, we have the South Node and the North Node axis here is being triggered by Pluto retrograde at 27 degrees of Capricorn. So Capricorn represents government. It represents corporations. It represents power. It represents control, rules, structure, limitation. So maybe we feel like some power force or something that is bigger than us. It could literally be government. Something applies some type of tension that then disrupts. Now, one thing I want to add about this tension point being formed by Pluto to the nodal axis is that the ruler of Capricorn, where Pluto is currently positioned, meaning its dispositor, is Saturn. And Saturn is in Pisces. So one thing we want to be very careful about because Pisces is associated with media, magic. The word media means magic. And we're talking about movies, Hollywood, everything. We want to be mindful of things being put out in media that help to cause panic. Pay attention to that. Don't be caught off guard, because Saturn can bring out fears, and especially so when it's in Pisces. But Saturn in Pisces positively can be used as a tool of manifestation. So it's about how do we choose to work with these energies. Are we going to be swayed to and fro by fear-mongering, which is possible? And what a great time to put out something that just scares the crap out of everybody when we have all these tension points, when we have one's identity and one's sense of self in a weak point, as the planet associated with that is in detriment, and it is opposite Chiron. So that wound of, who am I? Who am I? Am I really who I think I am? And if I am not sure who I am, can somebody else come in and insert an identity for me? Interesting. So I'm sure I'm missing something. Let's see, we talked about the square between Venus and Uranus. We talked about this yod between Neptune, Uranus, and the South Node. We talked about Mars opposing Chiron. I think that pretty much covers the main points of this full moon in Aries. In conclusion, let's think about the positives of what Mars has to offer us. Mars helps us shore up our courage. Mars helps us fight. There can always be a time of peace and olive branches. Sometimes we have to fight. We have to fight for what we want. We have to fight for what we desire. We have to fight for what we love. We have to fight for our perspective. So the tension, if handled improperly, can cause people to get engaged at this full moon and throughout the month of October especially in fights that don't matter. As in people fighting on the highway. People fighting, even when I'm taking my children to school, these are parents who are driving their children to school. And it's a school zone set up to protect our children, and the parents are zooming trying to cut each other off so they can be in the line first to drop off the children. Those are fights that are animalistic, they are low vibrational, they are degenerate. They represent a devolved nature of humanity. Now that can easily come out with this full moon. The evolved approach is to have courage of our convictions, and to whatever we set out on a journey or quest towards back in March, that we continue moving. And that we not let the fire, the flame, burn out. This is a collective consideration of this full moon. But if you want to look at how things play out in your individual chart, then of course I'm available for a private consultation. 720astrology.com. Take care.